Unfaithful lover, long since dead, deep asleep in thy wormy bed. Wiggle thy toes, open thine eyes, twist thy fingers toward the sky. Life is sweet, be not shy, on thy feet, so saith I. You should look at the brand new NECA toys. Toony Terrors, Hocus Pocus, Billy Butcherson. The witches are back, and there's going to be hell to pay. From Disney's irreverent comedy classic, Billy Butcherson joins NECA's Toony Terror line. Bring the fun of Saturday morning cartoons to your collection with this stylized 6-inch scale action figure. Comes in a blister card packaging. Hey, whoa. Try to keep it down. We're going to wake the dead. Wait, what? Oh, we've already woken the dead. All right, resume with whatever noise you guys were making. Before we get a closer look at the Toony Terrors, Billy Butcherson, let me go ahead and first thank the folks over at NECA Toys that did provide the sample that we could have a look at. Billy Butcherson, as well as all the Sanderson sisters, the trio of Sanderson sisters we looked at before, are available right now in retail stores and online. As for Billy Butcherson's height, now he does actually have to use a display stand. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. Not counting the display stand, he's a pretty tall figure. He's 6 inches in height. Or Billy Butcherson is about 15.5 centimeters tall. And speaking of those sneaky Sandersons, here's what the figure looks like along with Sarah Sanderson. Here's what the figure also looks like with Winifred. And here's also what the figure looks like with Mary. Let's bring in a couple other figures for comparisons also as well. Seeing as we just recently looked at a whole bunch of Toony Terrors, it does make things a little bit easier, of course, to bring those figures in. Here's what the figure of Billy Butcherson also looks like with Tiny. Here's what the figure looks like also with Scott Howard, his ball dribbled away. And then also here's what the figure looked like with the alien from They. A good bunch of characters. I would all kind of consider these to be part of the same wave, even though the Sanderson sisters were sold as a trio pack, and Billy Butcherson was certainly sold on his own. Regaining my tongue, which seemed to almost slip away that last cut. Let's have a look at the packaging that comes included also with Billy Butcherson. The reason why I also did want to bring in the packaging was normally with Toony Terrors, you usually have a part that you can cut out, and of course it would just serve as a cardboard standee. Billy Butcherson does not have that. It does have, again, a nice little cauldron detailing on the back. And then, of course, there's an image of the character on the back, but there's no cardboard cutout this time around. Oh, no. Moving that to the side, though, the figure doesn't come included with any accessories. Billy Butcherson, though, still manages to get himself a display stand. I would hate to say this, but the display stand is ever crucial when it comes to displaying the figure. If you, though, try your best to get Billy to stand on his own, well, he leans very much to the one side, and the figure's going to topple over. I thought maybe I could balance it by having his arms a little bit lower down, but by just the way they've off-keltered the balancing of his one leg, the figure's always going to lean to the one side. There's no way he's really going to be able to stand on his own. Luckily, at least, they know that, so they include a display stand that does have the peg that's going to attach to either one of Billy's feet. We're going to go ahead and do that right now. We don't tend to get a lot of big display stands like this either. I would guess they would have to have used a larger stand, just because a smaller stand I still don't think would have been enough to balance Billy. The figure, let's go ahead and pick him up right now. I think for right now we'll just remove the display stand, getting a closer look at Billy, played by Doug Jones. Doug Jones, the always go-to guy when you want someone tall and creepy. That's, well, obviously once he does have the makeup on. Doug Jones seems like a really nice guy in person. He just always seems to be a really creepy looking guy whenever they add the makeup on him. Sculpt wise, I think it does look a lot like Billy Butcher, although I think in the movie he's kind of more grayish than he is the green that we get right here. He's actually kind of more glowing in this case. His eyes look really nicely sculpted and equally well painted. And like in the movie, he does have a little stitching up on the front of his mouth. They sort of pose him in such a way. Actually, just before we do that, let's flip this guy around, spin him around so you guys can see. Really nicely sculpted hair, man. That's some cool looking hair. Kind of looks like the hair, the ponytail, the way the Dracula looked in Van Helsing. Never going to be really something I really want to mention a lot of. But I like the sculpting of the hair. I like the little strands of hair that he has sticking out from the sides of his face. One thing, though, interesting about the figure also as well is that the way that they sculpted the arms, you can see that they're permanently bent down like this. It either looks like he's trying to hold up something, or, for example, like if you wanted to have his arms up, which is really, I guess, the way that they have him designed to be displayed. He kind of looks the way that he first comes out of his, when he first gets resurrected and he comes out from the ground, and then I think Winifred is the one that says, go chase the kids. He sort of puts up his arms at one point and goes, "Rrr!" That kind of is what I'm guessing was the basis of this particular pose. The arms themselves don't have any articulation, at least in this area. And he doesn't have, normally, like, there might be a swivel, for example, in, like, his elbows, but the swivel only seems to be relegated just to his shoulders. He does have a rather interesting, puffy-looking shirt that even Jerry Seinfeld, I'm sure, would not want to wear. He's got a long jacket there, some nice additional fasteners there on the side that actually are sculpted in there. Oh, no, they're not just painted. If you thought that they would just be painted, you would be wrong. He does have that also on both sides there as well. The plastic that they used for is a little on the more softer side, but like the majority of his body, like there's no real posability in his waist either, which is actually I was kind of surprised to see. Really, when it comes to the articulation here for Billy, he doesn't have it in his legs either. He only really just keeps it in his head, which again, like the head sculpt seems to be on a ball joint, so at least that's something. You can rock it back and forth this way. You can rotate it for all intents and purposes all the way around, and it's okay. He's a corpse. He's not going to feel it. But again, you can have the head looking up, you can have the head looking down. So while he does lack a lot of the articulation that at least some of the Toony Terrors, while normally being relegated to very limited points anyways, Billy doesn't have much of anything when it comes to posability, but at least he does have a ball joint, so that's at least something. I'm going to actually, I think when it comes to displaying this guy, going to have his head just like rocked to the side, like just slightly off angle to the side, even confused. He even has, at one point he just wakes up and like looks around and realizes, oh yeah, that's my tombstone. Urgh. But yeah, he does have articulation in the shoulders. That's really all you're going to be able to get. I guess you could do it like this. Kind of looks like he's walking like an Egyptian. There is, again, no wrist articulation. I thought maybe there may have been, again, a part in the forearm, for example, that you'd be able to rotate back and forth, but not the case at all. It doesn't almost kind of look like, too, the way they've colored the skin, like Billy Butcherson would be able to glow in the dark. He sadly doesn't glow in the dark. But again, like there's no other articulation on this guy. He's got some really nice rips there and also in his pants. Really interesting looking. I actually had, if you could believe this, at one point, I was wearing around buckle shoes like this. I used to wear them at work. Everybody sort of gave me this strange look. Not that I was a corpse, not that I was just resurrected recently, but I used to always wear like buckle shoes sometimes at work. Anyways, he does have, again, the pegals on the undersides of his feet. Thank goodness for that, because again, when it comes to standing poor Billy, like if he didn't have enough problems already, he's a corpse for crying out loud. But the fact that he doesn't have a real an ability to stand on his own is a bit of a sad thing. But unfortunately, while not being the case that he can't stand on his own, at least NECA Toys did realize that. Sculpted the figure in such a way it does sort of give him a crippling stance, but at least they gave him at least a display stand. And one of the biggest display stands we've gotten, in fact, with a NECA release. And again, we can bring in the sisters once again. There's Winifred, there's Sarah, there's Mary. Yeah, I like the look of these. I really like the look of these. And again, I think in a case like this, I don't know if I would have had the sisters ever being sold separately. It could have been one of an idea that they could have actually had at one point. Let's release each of the individual Sanderson sisters separately. But I think anybody that's going to be buying any one of the sisters anyways, if they were sold separately, would have likely then just bought the trio anyways. So that's probably one of the reasons why they decided to release them as the set. Billy Butcherson, though, while not being the quartet of a 4-pack release, does get released separately. He's a bigger looking figure. He is a little bit more limited when it comes to the articulation, and he certainly is a lot more limited when it comes to standing, but he certainly has a good, interesting presence to him, and he certainly will look very nice with the rest of the Sanderson sisters when I put them on the shelf, along with all the other Toony Terrors we've looked at in earlier videos. While I'm sure Billy Butcherson would have had centuries he's want to say stuff to the Sanderson sisters, this version of Toony Terrors Billy Butcherson doesn't actually have the cut threads on the front of his mouth. He's still stitched shut, so he's not going to be saying much of anything. You know, while also looking at this figure, not only does it have a good likeness of Billy Butcherson as dilapidated as he looked in the movie, but he also kind of reminds me of something I would have expected to see from the animated Beetlejuice. There was a really depressed prince. I couldn't even remember his name. Of course, I should have probably looked it up prior to shooting the final looks of this figure, but the depressed prince that Lydia ends up befriending kind of looks a little bit like Billy Butcherson here, at least in Toony Terror format. Doesn't look at all like him in the movie, but certainly when you get him in a figure, he kind of looks like, again, someone that would have relegated the underworld of a Beetlejuice animated series. What do you guys think of Billy Butcherson? Let me know down below in the comments section. And have you had the chance to watch Hocus Pocus 2? Or if not, are you a big fan of Hocus Pocus 1? Let me know down below in the comments section. Once again, I'd like to thank the folks over at NECA Toys that have not only provided the sample of the earlier looked at Hocus Pocus Toony Terrors Sanderson sisters, but also gave me the chance to have a look at Billy Butcherson, also from the same film. If you guys enjoyed this review, want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and certainly on board to see more NECA reviews, there definitely will be more coming your way. If you haven't already, it makes no sense, obviously, if you already have subscribed. But let's just say you aren't the person that has yet to subscribe to this content. Subscribe to the person behind the camera. If you haven't, and you are enjoying the content, why not hit that subscribe button down below? And then why not turn on also the bell notification so you're always going to get those reminders whenever new NECA or non-NECA reviews will be coming to this channel. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.